no secrets at all. Beryl went to bed. She went. It was still quite. Yeah. Even met a bigger. She worked with Mum. She said, "Hey, is that your mum, that grumpy old bitch? She used to be in record."
Well, good evening, everybody, and we'll begin because we're on time tonight. And welcome, everybody. We were going to have Regan, our youth councillor, but it is school holidays, so he may walk in anyway. And his name is Regan Davey. Could I ask Councillor Sturt, please, to stand and open the meeting with a prayer?
Almighty God, who alone is the leader of all mankind and the fountain of all knowledge, send thy blessing upon us, your servants, this evening, as we strive to do all things good for the betterment of the people of the Rotorua district. May we be tolerant in ourselves at all times, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Apologies. Are there any apologies? I have Meripeka, Rokawa Tate and Councillor McVicker. Okay. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary carried. Any declarations of interest to be declared? There appear to be none. We now move to urgent business. Item 5. Are there any urgent items of business? Councillor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A little bit confused today with the Daily Post on page 2. New city focus design decided, and yet we've got a different press release in front of us tonight, which is just received about 2 minutes ago. So could you please explain, has the city focus design been decided, or is it still to be decided on the 4th of November, or some councillors already made up their mind?
No. Would you like to explain, Jeff, please?
So Councillor, this was a article that was written by the Daily Post. Once we saw the article in the Post, we contacted them today. As a result of that discussion, they have actually on their website corrected the article, and that is the copy that you have in front of you. So the corrected version is the A4 sheet that you were holding up a moment ago. So that is the correction that the Daily Post have made to the article. We understand that they're also going to be publishing a correction tomorrow in the newspaper.
I understand that Councillor Hunt and Portia Mackenzie have already been visiting shop owners. I have had 2 phone calls who have been most concerned that a decision has been made, and the decision has been made, and Councillor Hunt expressed to them that the city focus would be coming down and when would be the best time for it to come down. I find that that is completely out of order. The consultation process should come back to this council. That's what we're here for, to make a decision. And to find, I don't care if this has been a reprint or anything else, but to open the paper this morning and see that headline, it's an insult to fellow councillors.
Oh, yes, well, I'll speak to that. It is an insult to us all. We're all very clear in the understanding that any decision will be referred to us as it should be. And Councillor Hunt, would you like to speak to that?
I will. The points that were made to all of the retailers that we visited in the blocks of Tutanakai Street and Hinimoa was to ascertain that after November 4, if the city focus design, the compilation, gets the tick and going ahead, and when we're looking at building, we were trying to find out when is the least disruptive period. The one... No, we don't, because that's currently being put together from the submissions. So the submission process has finished. Those ideas are now being compiled and put together, because that was the agreement that went out. That's the way.
Through the chair, please, Councillor Serenk. And Councillor Sturt and
I'm not-
Councillor Serenk, please allow Councillor Hunt to respond, and then I'll ask Jeff to speak.
I explained to the business owners that the process going forward, because they are likely to be the ones most affected, should a decision be made on the work, that all the ideas submitted on were going to be collated into one final design. That was the point of the concepts, to create a final design. That design would be coming to Council on November 4th at the SPNF. And if that design got the tick, then the likely staging of events, and part of that was the City Focus building, because many people are concerned about Richard and the Guardians and losing them. So I went on to reassure that should that go ahead, and that building would probably be the first thing that would be looked at, then the Guardians would be housed here at Council temporarily until such time as that we would find another place for them. Then we looked at, if the building was to go, what time of the year would be less disruptive to them all. And that was the exercise, so that they knew if it goes ahead that it had an opportunity, and we now know when it would suit the majority of them. So we said we'd go with 60 to 70%. That's all determined by whether it gets the tick on November 4. And that was made quite clear. And I'm sorry if some misunderstood, but it was made very clear that that decision was November 4, and that there hadn't been a design yet. It's been currently put together from those submissions.
Councillor Hunt did not believe that it behoved her to run this past her fellow councillors before the steps were taken to visit retailers, to consult them as to when the work would best be started and what time frame would be best for the retailers. I mean, I think it's the cart before the horse.
Actually, as portfolio lead for the inner city, I've consulted with those within the inner city, just as I'm expecting the sport and rec and the youth and all of those people. And I hear afterwards you've been consulting about the nappy service or anything else. It isn't something I'm asked to give permission for. This enabled the November 4 decision to be made, knowing full well, if that went ahead, how were those retailers going to be affected, and did they know about it? So this is background work, and this will help inform that decision making on the 4th. I have the data here if you're interested in it. I have a copy of it.
Councillor Serenk, there is no decision that's been made. We haven't seen response from the ideas store, neither of you, neither of us, any councillor, and I take and understand that these decisions will be made on November. Do you want to speak to that?
Councillors, I think one of the confusions here is that this, at the end of the day, is a staff piece of work. In this case, obviously, the portfolio lead has actually been involved, but it is nevertheless still a staff-led piece of work. Why was it done? Well, quite simply is that in order to prepare an adequate report for you, this project has been based on extensive consultation and involvement with many, many people. One of the things that I would expect that you would be asking when we brought a report to you was, if we approve this, when would it happen? So quite clearly the staff decision was to undertake consultation in order to actually produce the report and to be able to answer that question.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Be seated for questions.
Yeah, no, it's to do with the City Focus. I'm also concerned about the Rotorua Review yesterday on page 5. City Focus fatally flawed. So we're getting tacked on
Councillor Gould,
from both newspapers.
Yeah, Councillor Gould, we don't usually try to answer media coverage and questions. I asked you if you had a question, Councillor Kent, you did, and then Councillor Bentley.
The question was, Madam Chair, each councillor got an email from Mr McClawley, and it was responded to from Councillor Hunt. But his the answer which Councillor Hunt gave him was not happy with. Another email has gone to the Chief Executive, which I don't know whether that's been replied to.
that's the process. It's not here at question times for clarification on a process that we usually answer questions raised in the media. Councillor Kent, you had a question?
Thank you, Your Worship. My question is, are we going to continue to see what this council is going to be making decisions about and reading about them in the paper? Because this is not the first one recently. I woke up the other day, picked up the paper to find out that we're talking about extending the night markets. And it would be very nice to actually be included in some of these decisions.
And that's a point that would be included in an operational report to a committee that we should know about. Councillor Bentley, you had a question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Mayor, sorry. When we had the meeting to discuss whether this was going to go out to consultation, Mr. Gaston was asked if the status quo could not be part of the choices, and he says there's, at that stage, I can't remember his exact wording, but it was indicative that it could be included as one of the choices. However, that was never to be the case as it turned out, so the people were left with three options. The status quo was not included, and some of us believe that the status quo should be considered.
Well, we shouldn't use till we've heard from the public, really. But they are pretty well known. Would you like to answer that?
Yes, through you. Look, can I, with your forbearance, actually just go back to a comment that was made by Councillor Kent. One of the things that this council is doing is to seek to involve the community to the maximum extent possible in decision making and in the development of concepts and ideas on things that could work. The issue that you are raising is that when you talk to people about what could happen in the future and what is possible, invariably that they will talk to others. And from time to time you will therefore see material such as this actually appearing possibly before you hear about it, although I would assume that the portfolio leads should be actually in the loop with all of these discussions. But the point that I want to actually make quite clearly is that I highlighted to you just recently a consultation process whereby we will talk to our community, we will gather their ideas, we will formulate them into a paper which you will make a decision on, and then we will work with the community on the implementation of that. That's the way this organisation's working under your direction to ensure that the community is involved and fully involved, not just in what decisions are made, but what are the directions that we should be taking on all of these sort of matters. So this is actually about community engagement and involvement. The issue about options was that we were not intending to go out with options and saying, please choose an option. What this was about was trying to create a discussion about a number of concepts which we wanted people's input on. So did people want to see change with respect to some of the ideas that were put forward or not? And that is certainly, from what I've seen, exactly what we've got. We haven't got a strong view in terms of, if you like, a preferred option. What we've got are people's views as to what they would like to see and the sort of elements that they would like to see within that city focus area, of which you'll see more about in the future.
Sturt and then Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Your Worship, this troubles me no end. I support what you just said, Jeff. The portfolio leads are involved at the discussions with the community, and there's no denying that. But at the end of the day, the final decision is made at this table to proceed with anything. Night markets, anything that involves costings and monies and budgets and things like that. Otherwise, we must well not be here. Decisions must come back to this table. But when I get a press statement or a verification and someone says, get stuck in and get it done, well, get what done? And, you know, to get another quote, she said 3 rounds of consultation to show there was support for the revamp. Well, in the LTP, there was a definite no. The public don't want us to spend money on the revamp of the city focus. And
What's your
my
question?
question is, well, Councillor Hunt is the portfolio lead, and I agree that she needs to be involved. The question is, how many said at the store, leave it alone?
That I'm not allowing that question. We need the feedback to be given to us in a full report, including your question on November the 4th. And that's when, as elected members, we should consider a report that comes through to us. Councillor Wepper?
Question, Your Worship. I mean, I've admired your leadership in many issues around this table. However, I believe you need to show some leadership in terms of this decision, because we're getting calls from people who haven't been knocked on the door, and there are more people in this community than retailers who are adjacent to this.
Councillor,
So
all
we
right,
need to be involved.
Councillor Sturt, I trust portfolio leaders. That's what you were put in charge of portfolios for. I'll show the leadership when a full report comes to council for us to consider as elected members. That's the right process. I'm very relaxed about that. What I didn't, we didn't gate this press release. Well, they're part of the inner city. Councillor Webb, you had a question?
Not really, Your Worship. It was more a couple of comments, if I was allowed to make them. I'll just wait for you to respond. I didn't really have a question. Mine is more a couple of comments from some of the things I've heard, if I may.
I'm going to actually close this.
Okay.
This is not an item of urgent business. I'll
No.
give you my leadership on this. This will come to a council committee, which is appropriate as a report for us to consider. I'm closing this. It's not urgent business. We'll move on now to the presentation on the annual report. Thomas, would you like to come and present this, please? Not yet. It's next. This is item 6. It's the annual report. 5. Sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've got a mic because I will get up in a minute with my presentation. For those that were at risk last week, there will be a couple of different issues. Look, with regards to the annual report and the operating result, you'll recall back in February, we indicated to council that there were some issues with regards to the operational report. We're likely to need an estimate of $1,000. The report will provide a number of recommendations 4 years. So therefore, what the audit is saying is, and they're right, is that you have to look at therefore saying, we've got like that 50 US is now 4 years, you have to impair that asset, you write that asset. And that's an accounting entry. So it ain't not the $8 million asset, we're actually being required to write down $6.4 million worth of asset. And that 6.4 will be recorded as an expense line in the profit and loss. Another example is Rotorua. Up to the environment court decision, including the environment court decision, we're carrying $3 million worth of costs. Now, we were holding that in our accounting system, waiting to be capitalised once Rotorua was completed. However, what the auditors are saying is that those costs have not, will not lead to an asset. The work that we're currently doing will lead to an asset, therefore it can't be capitalised as an asset, it should be. And you'll see that in the date. So what I've said is that the date there reflects the date that these costs should have been, the year that it should be reflected in the annual report as a write-down. However, because they're going to be sitting there, because we're now really focused on this, we're now picking up these write-downs. Lakefront designs are carrying 300. These are just examples. There's many in there, but these are just a couple of examples. Design work for 2008. On the thinking that you will do a lakefront, you will as an organisation work with that doing on the lakefront. The question is, are those design plans that were done all those years ago appropriate to lead to an asset? Likely not. So therefore, we like those assets. With the bringing of the asset management systems together, we found 1.7 million duplicate assets. One asset management system can, and so did the other. So we've taken the opportunity to focus on to. And then you get the typical normal ones like the ferry springs. So we've gone with 4-lane road. That road has infrastructure in it or underneath it. It hasn't been fully depreciated, and we go through the infrastructure. So therefore, the old infrastructure that we've just gone through
I understand from you we're getting the full report and we'll be debating it at O&M.
Yes, Your Worship. We still have a couple of issues of audit to resolve, particularly around the fixed projects.
Yep.
But the 49% draft can be circulated to the council.
We'll take questions if there are questions, rather than digging into the detail, because we'll save that for O&M, but there may be questions, because this is quite a new format that you're presenting here. Councillor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My only statement is that this has taken 3 months and 1 day for us to get the figures. It should have been done earlier.
Councillor Gould, that's not a question, and you yourself were at Audit and Risk, where this was discussed with the auditors at great length, so
The question is then, why has it taken 3 months and 1 day?
that's the question.
Happy to answer that, Your Worship. With regards to the operating result, we talked about that was fairly locked in place many months ago. But however, the rest of the process with regards to the annual report has been around the fixed assets, and that's been quite a long journey. So the undertaking from the finance team is that they believe that they can reduce this timeline next year by at least 3 weeks.
Councillor Sturt, then Councillor Kent.
Yeah, I have no problem with why it took 3 months and 1 day. It's been a robust process, and at the Audit and Risk Committee, the audit department people were there, and they explained their requests, which took some time for staff to bring all the information forward. So I've got no problem. I think the process has been very robust. I just want to take you, Thomas, back to the list of items that haven't been capitalised. So, yeah, work in process, but they haven't been capitalised. But those costs, that 12.479 million, which is the total of those costs would have fallen in those years, but held to be capitalised against an asset when that asset came into the books. Is that correct?
That is correct, Councillor.
Okay.
You want to make a comment?
Sorry, Your Worship, I didn't want to cut across
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Sturt, but I just wanted to make a comment about Councillor Gould's question. Councillors, the timetable for the preparation and delivery of the annual report was previously circulated to you. So you knew this timetable. This was not a surprise to you, or should not have come as a surprise to you. And the issues that certainly have been outlined tonight going forward will be addressed. But this particular one, the time frame was actually something was exposed to council previously.
Councillor
Yeah,
Sturt.
just go back to where it showed the 900,000. There. Add back depreciation of 900,000. Thomas, that would have come about because T-Rex didn't go ahead, eh? So there was not. We would have provided for a figure with T-Rex coming on board and being capitalised, and the depreciation being noted. So that's what that 900,000 is it?
Part of it is, Councillor, the majority of it is the airport asset
Yeah.
that was transferred.
And just finally, Madam Chair, the observations of, all the doom and gloom merchants out there saying the council was going downhill and accruing more debt. I'm delighted to hear tonight, as we heard at the Audit and Risk meeting, that we've retired another $1.2 million debt, and that we've held back 500. Maybe it's contingency, which we used to do years and years ago, but certainly in case of an event occurring, we need to call on that cash without going through the formal process of borrowing. So I say to you, Thomas, from where I sit, and I question the Audit Committee severely at the Audit and Risk Committee meeting, I think this is probably a wonderful result. And as long as next year, and I know Councillor Kent's probably going to ask some questions, but again, when we do this next year, that we can see the consistency, because it's been a muddle. Yeah, and it's been very difficult to understand. I think the format is now set concrete, and I think we should be able to next year say, this is what we did in 2014, this is where we're heading in 2015, in 2016 we're budgeting for this based on this, on these boundaries, if you like. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Your Worship. Section 100 of the Local Government Act requires councils to maintain their operating expenditure within their operating revenue, unless there is a very specific reason. This council has exceeded its operating revenue by $10.547 million in the past year. I would like to know what the official reason is, please.
For you, Your Worship, I guess the official reason is that's what we were budgeting. This budget for that year that we've just completed reflected a period where council was changing and the finances were changing. Rates were held at that time at 3%. Expenditure was reduced significantly as well. Capital expenditure was reduced significantly. But the issue was that we still had an operating deficit. And you'll recall in probably 6-7 months ago, we started having these discussions as we entered into the long-term plan, and that's exactly what's flowed through into the long-term plan and has now been rectified going forward in our long-term plan.
But does that, supplementary, does that actually then comply with Section 100 of the Act in terms of the appropriate reason for why this council has overspent its revenues by $10.547 million?
For you, Your Worship, the member will also know that directly below that section there's another line that says the council can choose to not have operated in a balanced budget if it feels prudent to do so. And obviously at this time, during a period of change, the members did feel it was prudent to do so.
You want to comment, Jeff?
Councillors, if I can also just add one comment. The financial result that you are seeing here is the financial annual report. It's a result of the year. The budget column, the 10.5 million, Councillor Kent, you're referring to, was actually passed by council in the annual plan. So the annual plan was adopted by this council, and now what we're reporting on is performance against that annual plan.
With my objection.
Donaldson.
Thank you, Your Worship. If we could go back to the slide on the write-downs, my question is regarding the Rotorua sewage costs up to the, and including the Environment Court judgment being written off because they won't lead to an asset. So just to get my thoughts in order, is that decision up for debate at O&M, or is that a requirement under the new public benefit auditing entity auditing standards, that audit have made that call and that's the end of the matter, because it is going to have a significant effect on the end costs to the households hooking up to that scheme one way or another?
Good. Yes, for you, Your Worship. That figure is not up for debate. That's come about because of, obviously, when you read the accounting standards and it determines the process that you have to work through to identify whether it will lead to an asset, those costs, at the time, the court told us that we got it wrong, so therefore those costs will not be represented flowing into an asset. So cannot change that. And as the councillor rightly identified, therefore that those costs will not fall on the beneficiaries of that scheme going forward, but will be picked up by the wider ratepayer base.
Well, Thomas, I want to congratulate you and the team. This is a very good result, especially at the 6-month result, when I heard Councillor McVicker say, make sure you come in on budget. This is a very, very good result. And I wondered if you could tell us too, what is our debt to revenue percentage now?
Without skewing the figure with cash on hand, our percentage is 163% against our cap of 175.
Thank you. Rest my case.
No, this is a very good result and I'm very pleased about it. So can you just confirm our total debt at the moment?
Off the top of my head, 167.5 million.
That's good. Okay, thank you.
we'll move on now. We don't have to consider any more until the O&M meeting. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Sturt, seconder for the report. Councillor Donaldson. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. We now move to the confirmation of council minutes on page 6. Yes.
At the O&M meeting, will the comments, Thomas, sorry mate, you've left the chair, will the comments of the audit committee, of the auditor, that was expressed to us at the Audit and Risk Committee on the matters relating to the process, etc., will that be explained at the O&M meeting as well? Because I think it's important that we get a, while I agree with what you said, Your Worship, in terms of being a very good result, I think the parameters and what the auditors said should also be articulated to all members.
Yes, they're not, the minutes have to be completed, but there were some very good comments there about are we living within our means, so they will come to the O&M meeting, but very satisfying. So we've got a mover and a seconder for the minutes of the council meeting on the 20th of August. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. The minutes of the council extraordinary meeting on the 20th, thank you. Councillor Sarank, seconded. Councillor Hunt, all those in favour, please say aye. Now, recommendations from other committees, page 38 in your committee report, that the report, I need a mover and a seconder to receive the report. Thank you. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Donaldson. All those in favour, please say aye. And a mover and a seconder. Thank you. Thank you. 2 and 3. Thank you. You second that. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. Staff reports. There appear to be... Oh, I've missed a whole page. Oh, amalgamation survey results. You've moved 2 and 3. He's moved 2 and 3. Yeah. He's moved recommendation 2 and 3. So that's the amalgamation survey results and the water service delivery option. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. So that's 2 and 3 together. Now we go to staff reports. There are none. Notices of motion? None. Confidential items, resolution to go into public excluded. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Sarank, that we move into public excluded. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. They took them as one. Yep. Yeah, we did. 1, 2 and 3.